We are mock drafting Dynasty rookie mock draft. Super flex, of course, because that's how it should be in Dynasty. Non-tight end premium. And we're just gonna get right into it. We got the whole band here for maybe the first time since like last offseason. I was trying to remember when we were all together last, but here we are. We're doing a Dynasty rookie mock draft. It is Sunday, March 3rd, so Combine is basically over. I think offensive linemen are running in their underwear right now, but so we'll kind of talk about that as we go. We're not using any landing spots. We're just doing round one, 12-team super flex, non-tight end premium. And Brian, you're gonna start it off. Hopefully I did the settings right here. You're gonna start us off here, and who you taking at the 101?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy in super flex. You got to go with Caleb, right? Like
Marvin.
I don't know. Like, is that who you would take, Dan?
Or
Jeff?
Yeah. Well, you know what? To me, fantasy football is all about points. Who's going to give you points? Marvin. But
I think, honestly, I think there's a tier one, and I think there's three players. I've been saying that for a few weeks now. Again, it's March 3rd, luck can change, but Caleb's definitely in that tier. Marvin's in that tier, and I think Jaden Daniels has an argument to be QB1, just like Anthony Richardson last year had an argument because of his rushing ability. So
I tend to agree with you that we know Jaden Daniels has some running ability. I mean, look at his numbers last year at LSU, and he rushed for over 1,000 yards. So he's not a big boy like Anthony Richardson, but
no.
he's gonna get some numbers with his legs.
Yeah, 100%.
How much do you guys? Sorry, I was gonna say, how much do you guys think landing spot's gonna affect these guys' fantasy value? Like, no one wants anyone to go to the Patriots, right? But what if Harrison goes there, or what if Jaden Daniels goes there? I know it's kind of a different Patriots now with Belichick gone, but we don't even know what that's going to mean.
No one wanted anyone to go to the Texans, and look what CJ Stroud did. Yeah. Like I kind of agree with that a little bit, but I don't know. It's not really going to affect it too much for me. And and Drake May is another guy who you can kind of throw. Some people will throw into this tier. Some people think he's the best quarterback in the draft. So there's a lot of if you have a top 6-7 pick, you should be happy. Top 3, I don't know. It's tough. There's really no wrong answer. But I will say, you do a startup draft. How many quarterbacks are going before the number one receiver? 7 quarterbacks, and then Justin Jefferson goes. So that's just the value of quarterback. So there's 10 quarterbacks that are going before wide receiver 4, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So is Marvin Harrison, he has to be there, right? He has to be a top 5 wide receiver just to be, and Caleb Williams has to not be like a top 10 quarterback just to like justify it. So I think Caleb is probably the safest pick at the quarterback position. So
yeah, definitely the safest. But yeah, maybe not the most exciting as far as like it's not different, but I don't know.
Yeah.
If I was at the 101 and I earned it, like if I finished last year, I mean, I guess you can argue like what your roster looks like, like there's a guy in my league or one of my leagues who he has I know he has Richardson, Stroud, and I think Mahomes too, and he has the 101, like earned the 101. And it's like, maybe like he basically has nothing else on his team, so maybe he does go Marvin Harrison. I don't know.
Yeah. Dad, so I'll let you make this pick. You're gonna take Marvin Harrison, I assume, at the 102.
No, I'm taking Daniels.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, he's the guy. He could rush for 1,000 yards. Like a little concerning because he kind of plays like Josh Allen, where he like takes hits, and it's like, dude, you're not Josh Allen's size at all.
Yeah, he's a little more slighter body, so
very much so. But he's a more talented passer than like Anthony Richardson, maybe even like a Justin Fields, maybe. I don't necessarily disagree with it. Jaden Daniels, and I think there's an argument. What if he goes to even a better situation, or like the Washington Commanders, or you have two good receivers to throw to and stuff like that. So he's 6'4", 210, and he's already put on like 20 pounds since coming into college. So I think that's I wouldn't argue that pick. So I'll just follow my tier 3 and just go Marvin Harrison here. What's that? Have you guys there?
Did we lose somebody?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was me. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm back. I can see you guys.
Yeah, and then I was just to wrap that tier 1 conversation up. I think there's an argument in like a 10-team league. I think there's an argument even in Superflex. I think there's an argument for Marvin Harrison because there's quarterbacks are a little bit easier to come by, right? 2 less teams, so there's more out there. So in a 12-team Superflex, I'm still taking the 2 quarterbacks first, and then again, you can even argue Drake May at the 103 and Marvin Harrison falling. So
do you think
Dad? Yeah, go ahead. Dad, you can make your pick whenever. So
do you think that the 103? Excuse me. Do you think the 103 is the spot then? Kind of like as far as like if you are sitting at the 101. Or do you think people are getting a little savvy to that, or do you think you can still pull that off, like, trading back just a couple of spots? Because I guess it depends on like how strongly your league mates feel about the 101. If they absolutely want Caleb or Marvin Harrison, like.
I think this year is the year to do that. I tried. I have a 101 in one of our orphan leagues, and I tried to get back to the 103 just because, like, to pick up a nice piece and just be happy with what falls to me. I think you can do it right now. I think there's a lot of people that aren't up to date on it. I know we're trying to stay up to date, but we're different than a lot of other people, right? So, Dad, I think that's a good point, though, Brian. Like to move back, maybe even to the 104 if like you're just fine with like, whatever falls to me at the 104. Depending on how you feel. So,
I'm in one of my leagues. I'm sitting at the 103 and the 105, and I'm very, very happy for that. Like, I'm actually trying to turn at least one of those picks plus a nice something into an actual quarterback, like either Burrow or Herbert, that I've already seen it from, kind of thing. Like, I think it's pretty doable, but I haven't been able to get it done yet.
Yeah, we're going to be doing those videos again, the picks and their values and what to trade them for. So it'll be good to talk about that. Brian, you're going to be next to make this pick. Dad took Drake May at the 104, which is the obvious pick in my opinion. Again, he could be the best quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised in the draft. Like people are comparing him to Herbert. He can run, like he ran for 700-800 yards one year in college. Which, by the way, when you get sacked, you lose rushing yards to the quarterback. So that's even more impressive in college, that is. I'm just trying to pull it up. 700 yards in 2022, 500. He's a guy that will come in. I think he can run for 400 yards in the NFL. So he's the prototypical, you build a quarterback in the lab. Drake May is what you're building. The size, the arm, the movement, the mobility, stuff like that. So Caleb Williams, he's a little smaller. He's 6'1". Jaden Daniels is slight. Drake May is, 6'5". I don't know his weight off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's like 220, 225 or something. But yeah, that's a nice top 4. Are you thinking anyone specific at the 105, Brian?
Yeah, I think it's still easy here. Like, the draft's definitely going to make it a little more interesting, seeing where these guys go. I mean, we're kind of going off of this this PFF mock draft with like basically like we have Caleb going to the Bears, and then their next pick, which is pick 9, they're taking Malik Neighbors. I think it's kind of interesting in this mock with the Chargers going with Odunze early. And honestly, if that does happen, it definitely makes him a little bit more interesting. But I'm still going to take I feel like the layup and just take Malik Neighbors at 5.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, he's considered the wide receiver too. I know people are all hyping up Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think Neighbors and Marvin Harrison are much closer to each other than we are giving credit for. And I think Odunze's right there too. I don't know if you agree with that, Dad, those 3 receivers being pretty close to each other.
Yeah, I would tend to lean that. I don't think and plus, you know, we talked about it 5 minutes ago, landing spots. So, you know, these wide receivers are only going to be as good as their offense and their offense and their quarterback and everything else. So,
yeah. And if it does play out this way in this PFF mock draft, it is Odunze to the Chargers, Malik Neighbors to the Bears, then I do think Caleb Williams is kind of the clear 101 because now he's throwing to DJ Moore, Malik Neighbors, Cole Kmet. You know, like that's a really good, wide receiver core, receiving core in general to be throwing to. So,
and Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, and Roshan. So yeah, I mean, geez, this draft is just full of. We have 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fantasy players drafted in the top 10, which is just insane. I'm gonna make this pick just so I don't do back to back. Honestly, I'm gonna go JJ McCarthy because I think he's gonna be a top 10 pick, and he could be the best quarterback in this draft. You know, like it's just too valuable to pass up on these quarterbacks. If they hit, you know, so if we get a top 10 quarterback, there's even an argument to be made for him to be taken over like a Malik Neighbors. I'm fine with Malik Neighbors going before him, but maybe it's controversial him going over a top 5 pick at receiver with Odunze. So I don't know, Dad, I know you're the McCarthy, obviously Michigan guy. So you think he's going to go in the top 10?
I think he would, you know, and he had a pretty good workout. There's nothing to really dislike about this guy, you know, other than, you know, you're gonna say, well, Michigan was a running team. Well, yeah, the guy still had a quarterback, 27-1. You know, he just turned 21 years old. He threw watching the workouts. They were timing the passes, how hard they were. Joe Milton was number 1 at 62. JJ McCarthy was number 2 at 61. So, you know, I know his accuracy tends to overthrow once in a while, but you know, I can see if this guy goes to Denver and then Sean Payton gets a hold of him, you know, that's what I'd like to see for JJ. So,
yeah. And this, you know, the PFF mock, he goes 10th overall to the Commanders. Again, that's not a bad landing spot. Like, obviously, they traded back. He's thrown to Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, you know, and maybe Curtis Samuel. Like, that's not bad there. So, Brian, Dad, you're going to make the next pick. Brian, any you agree with, like, a fourth, even though it's the QB4, but he's a top 10 pick, he could possibly go over, you know, wide receiver 2 and 3, even though they're top 10 picks as well?
Yeah, I think it's possible, but me being an Ohio State fan, you know, I just don't see it. No, yeah, like I think what you guys said is like totally relevant. I know he's kind of been a little bit of the hotness as far as like people kind of like mocking him to go in the first round. And yeah, I definitely think like it's very possible. Like we were kind of saying before the video started, there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback, you know, and
so many.
I mean, not all of them are going to work out, definitely, but he's definitely one who could. So
I'm trying to draft a Dunze and it won't let me.
Yeah, because you're not
yeah.
there, but I'll make it for you. Yeah, Dunze would be
That's pretty straightforward. One of the possibly the second best wide receiver. You know, I mean, we've lumped Neighbors and Marvin Harrison and Dunze in the same category, so getting them at number 7 is definitely a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, this is just stacked. Like, again, if you can trade back, like if you don't need a quarterback necessarily, like trading back from 5 even to 7 or 8, in my opinion, is solid. Like, you're still getting a really good player. Like, we're still in the top 10 of the NFL draft, which is just insane. That was the last guy to be drafted in the top 10, but it's just insane the amount of talent in this draft. I think this is pretty chalk top 7 and probably top 8. I'm not going to take who maybe people are thinking I should take is Brock Bowers. In this mock draft, although we're not really using it, to the T, but he's going to the Bengals, 18th overall. I know a lot of people, if he goes to the Chargers, 5th overall, I still think I'm taking first-round receivers over Brock Bowers in a non-tight end premium. You have to be so good at tight end, like not even like Laporta good, who was number 1 tight end last year. You have to be Kelsey good to be like a true difference maker, compared to like the top 15 receivers or something. So I'm taking kind of my wide receiver 4 here. That's Troy Franklin. I'm kind of back and forth between Troy Franklin and Brian Thomas Jr. I think there's a little bit more safety. Like Brian Thomas Jr. has a skill set that I think is going to really translate to the NFL. He's big. He's tall. He's kind of like a T. Higgins, but he's faster. He's going to be a downfield threat. But in terms of like who can be an overall top receiver, number 1 option, I think Troy Franklin has the edge there slightly. So that's why I'm taking him as my wide receiver 4. Dan, I don't know if you've kind of ranked out your wide receivers, or if Franklin's in your top 5 or Brian Thomas is over him. But any thoughts on Franklin there?
Franklin would be good. I think I would have leaned towards Brian Thomas, but geez, it's almost a coin flip here, it's I'm not, again, we have to see where these guys end up on what teams and stuff like that, and how they're going to fit in, and we'll know that, of course, the end of April. But Troy Franklin probably can't go wrong with that.
And you're right, because if we did follow this PFF mock, Brian Thomas was going 28 to the Bills, whereas Troy Franklin was going to the Panthers at 33 overall. So that's probably a sexier landing spot, right? Is the Brian Thomas, and you can't. Again, his skill set's going to be so coveted. He's probably going to be like a top 15, 20 pick. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. He's like the 3rd fastest receiver in this draft. It's just, it's insane. So, Brian, any thoughts on the 109 here, or if you want to touch on anything we just mentioned there with the Dunze or Franklin, you can too.
No, I think you guys nailed it. Like I was gonna say, I think the landing spot, according to the mock we're going off, would be kind of the tiebreaker for me. Mm-hmm. But kind of like what you said, as far as like if he does go to the Panthers, he automatically basically becomes the best receiver there. It's like, sorry, like Adam Thielen, like if he's still there, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Like it's a team that's obviously on the rebuild, so there's a lot of opportunity there, though.
Yep.
Yeah, like being tied to Josh Allen with Brian Thomas at 28th overall it's just too good to pass up. But situation's not everything. It definitely helps, but that would be the tiebreaker for me. I'd go Brian Thomas there.
Okay, 109. Any thoughts? What you would be leaning towards here? Brian Thomas here? Is that what you're saying? Sorry.
Yeah, I think so, because I think I would have taken him where you just picked, but I think it's hard to really argue right or wrong in this situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. A couple things, like, I don't want to talk too long about it, but Dad, you're going to be next up on the 110. But as I talk here, you can think about that. But a couple things like worry me about Brian Thomas. Like, we've only seen 1 year of true production from him, like real good production. Always makes me slightly nervous. It's not a deal breaker, but he was obviously the second. Went to LSU, so he was wide receiver 2 on the team with Malik Neighbors there. But the testing stuff, the 4.33 speed, the vertical was great. The broad jump, which shows explosiveness, was really good. His arms and hand size are good. His 10-yard split, which is how fast are you in the first 10 yards, which is becoming more of an important metric for people, just because it's like, well, most things are within a 10-yard. Running backs don't normally go further than 10 yards, and receivers are running 10-yard routes or something like. That was good too. So, there's no argument from me against Brian Thomas. So it's kind of a coin flip, like Dad said. But any thoughts, Dad, at the 110?
Yeah, Brock Bowers landed in my lap. So
seriously,
to me, it's no brainer taking him here. I would jump all over it at number 10, and we're, especially if you're, my word, if you got a Dynasty tight end premium league, is he going to end up like Laporta? Yeah, we don't know. Or is he going to end up like Pitts? Yeah, we don't know. But we seen with Dalton Kincaid last year with the Bills, he started about mid-season. He started to get it. So Laporta was good all year with the Lions. I mean, that was definitely a bonus for the Lions and stuff. But Brock Bowers should be in that category, right there, producing right away.
Yeah, and this again, the PFF mock we're kind of going off of a little bit is, he went to the Bengals, 18th overall, which is an amazing spot for a tight end, hopefully. But yeah, any major tight end premium, like 0.5, 0.75, he shouldn't be falling past like the 107, probably, maybe even earlier. So, Brian, I'm going to give you 11, but go ahead if you want to say something on Bowers.
I was just gonna mention, because Dad mentioned Laporta. Like, I think Kyle Pitts had a better year in his rookie year. He just didn't have any touchdowns. I feel like Pitts has always had quarterback issues. I don't know. I think I know I can't talk too bad about the Lions here, or else Dad will disown me. But yeah, go Kyle Pitts.
Nothing bad
just
to
quiet.
Talk
about. What's that?
Nothing bad to talk about with the Lions.
No, yeah, I know.
For Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, no kidding. He's gone.
Yeah,
111.
If you're picking back here, I think it really depends on like what your team is. You could easily have earned this spot, which means you're a playoff contender, and you kind of like, you'd prefer someone who can help you right now. In which case, like, maybe you're just trading off this pick, and getting an actual vet. But if you pick this up, if you're on the other side of that, let's say the contender did trade you this pick and you're rebuilding your team, you can kind of afford to get these guys that are a little bit, maybe a little bit more of a developmental piece. And, according to like our mock, I mean, who knows what's going to happen when it comes to the quarterback situation with the Vikings. But if Bo Nix goes there at 30, like, I really like that. And like, I'm looking at Michael Penix too at 34 overall, like, to the Raiders. Like, I think it's kind of the smart thing to do is to take the quarterback, unless you feel extremely strong about these receivers, which I'm sure you guys are going to kind of get into now. It's like, you're not taking a running back still, So yeah, I think I would just take whoever you like better between Penix and Nix. Like, I think I'd lean Michael Penix, honestly, but
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably lean Knicks if he went to the Vikings, just because you're throwing to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. They were making Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs top 12 quarterbacks every week. Like the Vikings and their system, they're going to throw the ball 70% of the time. But no, you're the reasoning is perfect. Like, and I kind of agree with it. Like, Bo Nix is my pick here. Is someone who should be going, like, potentially even over guys like Bowers and Brian Thomas and Troy, late first round wide receivers versus, or mid to late first round receivers versus first round quarterbacks. Late first round quarterbacks. Like, we just talked about how valuable they are in the beginning. Like, they're still valuable. They could still be good there. So. Yeah, I would turn this. I would choose Bo Nix here. Dad, any comments on those last two quarterbacks going?
No,
agreements.
I tend to lean towards Nix. I know they say he was kind of I don't know if he was like a check down guy or something like that. His arm strength, all this other hoopla they try to pin on these quarterbacks. But watched him throw yesterday. He was pretty good. Penix looked pretty good too. Either of these guys here at 11 and 12, yeah, not too bad. The nice thing is, we've done 12 picks. And they're still going into the second round, and I'm sure in the next weeks or so we're going to be doing 2 or 3 rounder. There's still some very good players. We haven't even touched running backs yet. So,
and people are always going to covet running backs and overdraft them a little bit. Yeah, I mean, mid second round picks this year are like maybe as valuable as like first round picks in other years. Like we didn't even, if we did follow this draft, the first round receiver who went to the Chiefs didn't even get drafted, in the first round, which is insane. Like Adonai Mitchell, Lad McConkey, Xavier Worthy is a guy who I really liked, even, not just because he ran a 4.21 and broke the record, but like I liked him before that. Xavier Legette is a physical freak, Jonathan Brooks is maybe the best running back, or Trey Benson. So yeah, just a lot of really good value for sure. But I think it's fair. Like, again, if you're sitting there with the top 7 pick, I think you should be super excited. Even a top 8 or 9, 10 pick, expect to get a first round receiver or a first round, a later first round quarterback, or even an early second round quarterback. So yeah, just full of value here. Anything else we want to touch on? Brian, you want to touch on anything?
No, I don't know if you guys want to, like, we talked a little bit about trading back. I don't know if you guys want to get into that at all. Like, I'm just kind of curious, or do you want to save that for another video, or?
Yeah, maybe save it for like when we go over maybe like the individual picks, or like at least the tiers of picks or something.
Yeah, I think that would be a good little discussion. Like, what would it take to go from like 1 to 5, or 5 to 8, or whatever? Like, we don't have to get into all that right now, but yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion to have.
Yeah, indeed. Dad, any last words there?
No, just as I was saying, there's good players. There's still good players. Kind of glad to see this is our first one, so just kind of glad to see it kind of lay out, and thinking ahead to the second round and possibly even the third round.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that top 7 seems pretty set. Caleb, Jaden Daniels, Marvin Harrison, Drake May, Malik Neighbors, McCarthy. Well, maybe not McCarthy yet, but Adunze. That top 6 seems pretty set. McCarthy, I'm almost guaranteeing to be in that top 7. So that seems to be pretty sad. Then we'll see. We'll see if Brian Thomas, Troy Franklin get first round value, other receivers. If the Chiefs take a receiver, they're going to be highly coveted. Maybe a running back sneaks into the top of the second round, and people are they may become a first round pick. So, yeah, if you have a lot of picks, you should be excited. So we'll finish up there, and we'll be back. More mock drafts, individual pick videos. Still doing some scouting, maybe some talking about some players, established players in the NFL, and they're kind of a price check on them. So lots of stuff to come out. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and we will catch you guys next time.